What's going on, everybody? Hope you are having a wonderful week so far. Podcast time, and this week got the one and only Absolute on the episode. Loved catching up with him. He's an amazing producer, and I've seen videos of his DJ sets, and it looks like he's a bloody amazing DJ. So, without further ado, Absolute, what's cooking, man?
Hey, how are you? Good to see you.
Yeah, good. That green hair is looking wonderful as ever. I love it.
Thank you. I gave it a little fresh ears just for you.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. How's life anyway? Where you at the moment?
Yeah, it's good. I'm just in my studio in London, in London Fields, which is where I've been most of this year, actually. I've just been hibernating away for January, and just as gigs start to kind of kick back into place. So it's my happy place.
Nice, man. How was your Christmas period and all of that? Was it good?
It was good, actually. It didn't really feel that festive. I think just because there was just so much chaos going on before Christmas, especially in London, that it just didn't really feel that festive.
Feels like a lifetime away as well. I can't believe it was like literally only a month ago, but
yeah,
I don't know why it's like this we're in February already, and you're like, oh my god, it's mental.
Well, the good thing, summer's coming. The days are getting lighter.
This is true, man. This is true. The days are getting lighter. Although I'm in Detroit right now, and
okay. How was it there?
We had like about 6 inches of snow last week. And it's like it's like -5 today, which is actually pretty warm for how it has been recently.
Wow.
But the mornings are getting lighter, so there's always a positive.
That's good, yeah. I mean, there's not 6 inches of snow here, so that's something.
Yeah, so have you always
How was your Christmas in the year?
It was wicked, man. Like, I was lucky enough to get back to the UK to spend time with the family, and I had like about a month off, which honestly killed me. I can't stand taking time off. And I think after COVID, having like 18 months off and then having another month off after being back touring, and I was just like, I was so fed up with just like not touring. But it was wicked.
Yeah.
It was nice to see everyone, and it's good to be back out in the States touring, and then back to Europe for some of the summer, which would be nice.
Nice. Where are you from in the UK?
From Bristol. Oh,
amazing. Yeah, I'm from Devon, so that's.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that was like my city that I used to go out in.
So I'm not from Bristol, but it's just easier to tell people that I'm from Bristol. But it's the closest city. I'm from like Somerset, near like Cheddar.
Oh yeah.
So like bumfuck middle.
Yeah,
of nowhere.
Well, not far then.
Yeah, literally.
We're like little southwest.
Whereabouts in Devon are you?
Southwest days. From Torquay.
Oh yeah, you're like really close to me. It's like an hour away.
Yeah, super close.
Yeah,
so it's all by the beach, and
How was it growing up in Torquay?
Do you know what? It was actually quite a good place to grow up, because
really?
I would just be out on my bike or on my skates every day.
Yeah.
You're in this there's just beaches everywhere, so you can just be going on bike rides, jumping in the sea, And so as like a kid growing up, I think it's great.
Yeah.
And then when I started kind of hitting sort of music age, there were a few places actually down there then. So there was like a small music scene, and there was like record shops, which I would just be in all the time.
Yeah.
And then that scene seems to have not it doesn't really seem to be there anymore, but there was luckily a bit of a scene. It was more like there was lots of techno and hard house and trance back then, which is there's a club called the Monastery, which was kind of famous down that way. I don't know if you ever got to go.
No, I didn't.
To that.
Was it actually in a church?
Yeah, so it's in a converted church.
Epic.
Literally, the DJ booth was the altar.
Oh no way! This is so good.
And it opened. Yeah, I mean, it opened at 12 o'clock at night and shut at 6 a.m. And it didn't serve alcohol. There was lots of very friendly people there.
That's amazing. I remember going to a rave in Weston-super-Mare back in the day, and I went with a mate, and his family were like super like religious, and it was like a church rave that the church put on, so it was very similar to that. It was just like a big party, but no one was drinking or taking narcotics. Always interesting places because you kind of get everyone like, I don't know. I don't drink myself, but I think when you have like a whole crowd of not drinking or taking drugs, it's kind of weird in a club environment.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely wasn't any like normal services going on in this place. It was 100% like full club vibes at all times.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there was definitely lots of narcotics going on in that place back then.
Strictly Class A's.
Strictly. But you know, it meant that what it did do though is it brought all these different people together from these different walks of life and actually created like a safer space where people could kind of let loose. And I guess for me, that was the first time I'd experienced one of those kind of spaces where, you know, where it wasn't like you're worried that someone's going to punch you for like, you know, which is what maybe you'd be more, you know, more inclined to at the other venues.
Yeah.
So that was like a nice.
I also think that's the thing in the UK. I don't really see it much. Maybe I'm just so far away from it in the US that I just don't really pay attention. But growing up in the UK, there's so many like little clubs in each city, and a lot of the clubs are very commercial based, and it's literally just like a bunch of lager louts going out for a punch up every night.
Literally,
especially in places like Torquay and Weston-super-Mare and like all the like seaside towns where it's a bit of a destination for people to go. So you get all the Northerners come down, and it's kind of like their party kind of place. Gets a bit messy on weekends.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. So it was great. There were a couple of little spots where it was more about the music, and you know, where people could go there and enjoy that side of things, which is obviously the part I was interested in.
Yeah, definitely. When did you start writing music? Because I'll be honest, I had only come across you from your String Theory record.
Okay. So yeah, that seemed to be one that a lot of people. It kind of did raise the bar for me, that track.
Yeah.
I think because Pete Tong picked it as an essential new tune. It was just kind of like out of the blue. I didn't expect it. I just kind of not just threw it out, but I kind of put it out on my own label at the end of the year. Just expecting it to be a bit of a club record, and then because it's this banging techno tune with orchestral strings on it, and then it kind of ended up being it was Pete Tong's essential new tune. Annie Mac was playing it every week. It just really kind of put all eyes on me from that moment. But I guess from there, I've probably been making music as Absolute since about 2015.
Okay.
So it's I guess I was going to say 5 years, but obviously we've had 2 years of lockdown, which kind of just you always just need to add on next 2 years now.
Yeah.
So that was I was always kind of, even when I was a kid and just collecting vinyl, I was always just obsessed with dance music, and then I would have, I think it was like Dance EJ. It was just like really, really old school.
Yeah, I remember that.
Music production that was like super basic. And then I think Fruity Loops.
They put you used to get Dance EJ off on the Kellogg's cornflake packs. that's
maybe that's where I got it.
That's how I got my first copy of it, on Kellogg's. Yeah, on like a pack or a cereal pack.
I love that. Imagine that now. Like
I know they don't do shit like that anymore. It was like, can you remember the sample packs that you would get on like I don't know if you can remember these, but on like Future Music magazine, you used to get like a DVD that was like full of samples, and then it had like a tutorial on it, and that was on the front of a magazine. And you like, and on Mixmag used to do CDs like every month. And
yeah, the cover mix was amazing.
I remember I had a Milo did a vinyl once, and it was like a 7-inch vinyl on the front of the DJ mag. It was so cool. I'm like, why don't they do that anymore? But
yeah, that's it. I mean, it's that. I mean, as well for me, like growing up in a small town, you know, that was kind of a lifeline into underground dance music. Being able to, you know, hear these cover mixes from artists that you may not have heard of, or you'd probably been reading about, but hadn't had a chance to see because they wouldn't come down to Devon.
To that,
so it was a real, it was a real sort of lifeline, and you know, really, and such an enjoyable thing that you would really look forward to each month.
I think also back then this was like pre-internet. It wasn't pre-internet, but it was pre-Web 2.0, kind of what we know now. But like, because there wasn't people streaming music. There wasn't really, Napster hadn't started then, I don't think. Maybe it had, but I just was completely unaware of it. But like the whole culture of dance music, where it was kind of like a secret to a certain extent.
Like you had to kind of be in the know.
Yeah, it was like a cool kids club that you like.
Yeah.
And there's something about that I kind of miss. Right now it's amazing because house music is so commercialized, which it allows us to do what we're doing, right? Like that there's never been a time where there's this many DJs that are as successful as they are. But there was something really kind of special about the early days where it was like a very small club. It was very small kind of minority of people that would go into parties and DJs and producers and things like that.
Totally. And I think as well, even just it kind of maybe stems from that, like that 90s rave culture where you almost like, even more so than that, when you had to ring a number at this time or go to the phone box at this time. I love the idea of that. You know, there's this kind of like, you kind of got to work to get into this like magical euphoric rave, whereas it just adds this whole extra level of excitement.
I totally agree. I did that. I threw a party in Detroit before the pandemic, and we did that. We did like a text thing where you had to text a number to get the address, and there was something about that just like it just added like a special vibe to the party. And I don't know if that was just me thinking that when I was there, but it just kind of like, it wasn't just like people just, we're going to this club tonight, we're going to that club tonight. It's like everyone like texting you and asking you where the venue is, like trying to get to know what the venue is before the show and things like that. And it's just like, there's something special about that, which I feel like we've kind of lost a little bit. But I'm not complaining about today as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I just love the whole idea of it. It just kind of creates such a good suspense. And, you know, it's like you've been let into this special club, which is you know, it's just going to make things, you know, so when you get there, you're even more elated, and it's just like.
Totally. Did you ever do any like free parties when you were younger? Did you go to many?
Not really. Yeah, I think I kind of missed those. I didn't know. I was maybe slightly,
because I only went to one free party, and that was at Kent. It was it was in an abandoned leisure centre in Kent, in Maidstone, I think. And it was New Year's Eve, like I can't, like easily 10 years ago, maybe longer than that actually. That was a weird experience.
Yeah, I've heard about them.
They're weird.
I think there was like, I've always heard lots of rumors, but there just didn't seem to be any kind of close to me when I was. I heard about them when I was like really young, like a teenager, when I wasn't really able to go. But yeah, I didn't. I mean, maybe there were still some going on that I just didn't know about.
Yeah, I bet some came back during COVID as well. I bet some people, some crews, I can imagine, definitely started. Yeah. I love the concept of it, but it's just not for me. I'd rather. Yeah. It's a bit weird, definitely. Sorry, we went on a massive tangent then. So string theory, and you started producing 2015. What was the kind of point where you were like, I need to start writing music? Were you DJing beforehand?
Yeah, so I was running club nights in London, like underground queer parties for maybe like 8 or 10 years, which was amazing. Like it was.
What were they called?
So incredible. So the first one was called Super Electric Party Machine. Yeah. And I did that with Larry T, who's like one of the like OG club kids with the whole RuPaul crew. Yeah. So it ended up being this like hotbed of just super colorful, loads of drag queens, loads of club kids, just like really just super fun energy. Yeah. And then Larry moved to Berlin, and then I started a party called What Club, which was something that was, because originally it was a weekly party that was like, and it's quite relentless doing a weekly party till 6 a.m. every week. So I decided to do a monthly party, something that was a bit more curated, start pulling in like other names and other artists, just make it feel a little bit more special. And it was still would be like full of club kids and you know that vibe still, which was amazing. But then there was a kind of, and we kind of built it up, it was like the official Pride party. We took over one of the main stages at Milkshake Festival in Amsterdam, which is like huge queer festival, which is amazing festival. But then I like knew it was and it was all great, but it wasn't, I could feel like I was missing something. Like I needed to pursue music as my sole you know, pursuit. And I think it got to the point where I just had to just take a leap of faith and just be like, okay, right, I'm stopping everything apart from stuff that is going to push me forward in the Absolute project. So I was DJing all the time then, but I kind of just stopped any gig that wasn't, because I was kind of just doing music. So I was putting on club nights and then just DJing where I could to make money to kind of just survive. But they weren't necessarily all gigs that were, you know, pushing me forward in the right direction. So I kind of just stopped all gigs that weren't pushing me forward, and just spent as much time as I possibly could just writing music. And then after that kind of scary leap of faith is when things started to
actually happen.
Started to happen. And that was maybe after 2015. It was probably a couple of years after that, because there was still a crossover period where I was making music as Absolute and still doing the club nights. But the great thing about doing all those nights is it just, you know, I just met every person on the scene in London. You know, just made so many friends, so many contacts. And it was, you know, it was a wild ride for sure. Just having like this, and also being able to create these safe spaces where people genuinely felt free to express themselves in any way, you know, whether it was gender expression or just letting loose and being who they want without any kind of prejudice. And beyond that, it was kind of celebrated, and we kind of felt like, you know, like a little family rather than just you know, it wasn't bitchy, it wasn't, you know, people trying to clamber on top of each other. It just felt like a good
proper party,
like a good proper party where everyone wanted to have a fucking great time and wanted the best for everyone around them. And that's really kind of stuck with me.
No, I love that attitude, because I think it's so important. Like, everyone has issues in everyday life, right? Everyone has things that they're going through, everyone has things that they're trying to deal with. And for me, like, a nightclub is one of the only places where people can literally just forget about all of that shit and kind of just escape reality for 5 hours of their weekend and kind of put it all under the carpet for a little bit.
That's it. Yeah, no outside pressures, just kind of be who they want to be for that amount of time. And especially in queer spaces, I think that's like even more important, because
totally,
you know, it's like sometimes that's the only place where they feel they can be themselves, which is,
well, I think that's it, is in, I guess, when you're a minority and you're kind of in the general public, I'm pretty sure it can feel pretty kind of tough to express how you actually feel, because you're going to get judged and you don't want to get judged, and kind of you've got all of these external pressures from everybody else. And I guess when you're in a space where you can truly be yourself and not be judged, it's kind of super important, definitely.
Totally. It's also where like the most fun happens.
Yeah.
Like there is, I mean, like those kind of like mixed queer parties are without a doubt some of the best, you know, atmospheres that I've ever experienced in any party or, you know, wherever I've played, because there's this extra liberation in the air that just, you know, when people feel safe, they can just really let loose, you know, and they do, and that's the joy of it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I totally agree with that. It's just about being free, right? Without sounding cliche as hell, it's just about being able to just like fully be yourself. And I think when people are accepted, they can just be themselves in a certain space, it kind of makes everything. It goes back to what we were saying about kind of the specialness of like a like secret party and things like that. It just adds to the whole like ambiance of the club, of the night, and there's something really special about that.
Yeah, when almost like when the crowd is, they sort of becomes one consciousness, and you're all just like, you know, having the like this like peak moment.
Oh, I love it. To be fair, like, it's not often that I get that feeling when I'm playing. I don't know about you, but like, it's not. it's not. Yeah, it's really not often that you get that, but when you get that, occasionally, it's literally like the best feeling ever.
Literally the best. It's the biggest buzz that, like, you know, out of anything possible.
Yeah.
You know, better than any drug, better than, you know, any other high. It's just, yeah, it's just pure elation.
Seeing people have fun is I guess we're lucky, right? What we do, by
For sure.
by doing that. What was it like putting on parties and promoting and like on a weekly basis? That's pretty intense.
Yeah, I mean, at first I kind of I loved it, and it was great. I mean, actually not at first. That's sorry, because it took maybe like 3 months to get it until the party like clicked, and then it was a vibe. But for those first 3 months, I mean, it's pretty soul destroying when there's like 5 people in a room and you're like, what the fuck's going on? I've just spent like, you know, so much time trying to put stuff into this, and then I'd be DJing at the party, promoting the party, kind of running the party at night, you know. So there was like, there's a lot of stuff going on, and it takes it out of you. But once it, you know, you kind of had to push past that barrier and then push out your comfort zone and keep just come to my party, come to my party, and then, you know, eventually people do come to your party. And that's when it starts getting fun and when it starts getting exciting.
Yeah.
And the other good thing about it for me was that it meant that I would be DJing every single week and I would be playing at different times of the night. So sometimes I'll be closing 4 till 6, which was probably my favorite time to play, because it was kind of queer party. At the start, obviously everything's a bit lighter, and well, just in general at a party, I guess. And then, but by the sort of end of the night, I felt like I had sort of creative reign to just do what I wanted to.
You can give it some.
And take it as hard or as weird as, you know, as I wanted. And that was exciting, because before that, I hadn't really had many opportunities where I could really experiment properly like that.
Well, I guess that's kind of like a good headline spot, right? And when you're growing your career, you never really get to headline anything.
That's it. And then, like, here you go, you can open. And like, okay, great. There's like the barmaid and like the glass collector.
And then when you get when you get to the point where you're headlining, you just want to open the club and you just want to play music, just to like play chill music.
It's been like, I mean, because this last year, really, I've been like, I mean, it's been incredible because I've got to play at all these like amazing venues that have been on my like wish list for so long, whether it's like Printworks or Warehouse Project, loads of these kind of big rooms where it's like, you know, you're at peak energy and you've got there's not really any give and any let up, and that's like a whole new different style of playing, and, you know, keeping everyone engaged in those moments. But then recently I've been, you know, wanting to kind of play some smaller venues again, just to kind of experiment a bit more again and just kind of get a bit weird. And but I mean, I think it's both are, I love both, so
they both have their different kind of payoffs, don't they? I guess like playing in front of like 10,000 people is pretty fucking special, and then and then playing in front of 200 people is so intimate that you can feel like you're part of the party, and you literally control the whole room by whatever your next record is.
That's such a
it's wild.
You're like the conductor of fun.
It's so wild. It's mad what we do if you think about it. Like, it is crazy. We are very lucky. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm so grateful that I you know, get to do this. It's literally what I've been dreaming of. So
yeah, man, you've been smashing it recently as well. You're like everywhere, like absolutely everywhere. Like literally since I heard String Theory, I kind of like started following you. I think I actually messaged you about that record because I was like, I haven't heard a record like this in a long time, and there was something special about it because it wasn't trying to be it wasn't trying to be a hit, right? You didn't like put any like you could have quite easily have got a top line on that and like made it a cheesy commercial dance record because it had that like, it reminded me of like Eric Prydz, Pajanu, and things like that. It kind of was just like a very solid club record. That's just an instrumental, very simple, but just so effective. It was just like unbelievable. And ever since then, I kind of started following you, and literally, you've just been like going from like I've just been because being an artist myself. And seeing, we all have goals, if you know what I mean. We all have things that we want to achieve in our careers, and I can imagine you ticking. I see you post something, and I'm like, there's another one that he's ticked off, and there's another one he's ticked off, and there's another one, and I'm like, it's been amazing to watch even during the pandemic. Like you were doing a lot of big things in the pandemic, and it's been wicked to see. It's been really good to see.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it feels like there's been some really intense months where it felt like there was at one point where it was just like every single day I was doing something that was pushing me out of my comfort zone, stuff that would be on my bucket list that normally I'd be like, I need to prepare like 2 weeks for this, or like, and it was just like, there's no time. It's like, you've got to do this tomorrow. Oh yeah, you're doing a Mixmag stream. Oh yeah, you're like, you're gonna be on the cover of Mixmag.
Yeah, that was mad.
You're gonna do, like, it's like there's just like, there was like like a million things that all kind of happened at once, and it was kind of just trying to just like stay focused and get through it and just enjoy the ride of it all. So it's been I mean, it's just been incredible. But I think as well, it comes, you dream of all these things, and then I think obviously these like new challenges come up, and then obviously you know there's other things that you didn't think you think about, but if you're doing the right things, if you're I think for me as well, I felt like I've had like quite a big breakthrough during lockdown, because at the start of lockdown I was totally sort of I felt like, I mean, I was just about to go on tour in the UK for the first time, like first proper tour. I'd just done the Mixmag Lab, I just had Essential New Tune. It felt like there was things were finally like chipping away for so long, things were coming together, and then there was the pandemic, and it was like, no, actually, I'm going to stop you there. So that was like really demotivating. And then I ended up doing an idea generation course that kind of kickstarted my creativity again.
What's that?
So it's by this guy called Mike Monday, and I think he actually did it for free at the start of the first lockdown in the UK. And I was like, okay, well, there's no harm in trying this. I'm literally, sat at home. I felt like I was in a big hole. And that kind of, I ended up writing like 100 track demos in 2 weeks or something, which is just like obscene amount, and something that I haven't written as much again. And it was the most I'd ever written. But that kind of then just became a starting point for actually putting together a big body of work during lockdown.
So what the Mike Monday thing, what was the basis of that?
So the like what you do is you can kind of do it in any, however you create music, could translate. So you basically get 5 tracks. So it could be like drums, bass, strings, whatever. And you could pick 5 that you kind of like to write with. It could be a vocal. And then you basically just write in the parts for each bit, but you don't really give it too much attention. You're not going back and like tweaking everything, EQing everything, mixing it down. You're kind of just getting everything down, and you're kind of getting into a flow where you're just creating basically. And then eventually when you kind of start getting into that flow, you end up just being able to kind of, I don't know, you're kind of just channeling something from somewhere, that obviously there's a load of shit in there as well that,
of course,
will never see the light of day. But there's even just having a bank of drafts of stuff that you can kind of click back into, and just so that was kind of that in itself. And then it kind of evolves through, and then you start doing it, instead of doing it with stuff that you love making music on, you randomly select a sound and then you have to make something with it. So it just kind of throws you into into a different trajectory that it's more about discovery rather than design, I think. So that you're kind of going into the studio not really knowing what's going to come out. And I kind of love that about making music. And it's I feel now I'm kind of, I think, a balance of the two, like part discovery, part design. It's kind of, I think where I've got a sort of sweet spot. But I love the idea, and I probably need to do another one actually, where you just get a whole massive music down.
It's very sorry to burn, but it's very easy to just like do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. I feel like I'm probably the opposite of that. I feel like I probably need to do the same thing a bit more. I'm always just like, always kind of pushing to try and discover something new, or push to a different sound or try something new. But I guess but I kind of, that's kind of what excites me in the studio. First, I kind of need that something new to kind of keep me hooked. Yeah, but it's so, and with that course actually, I just got the Ableton Push, so I kind of was using that as a base to play everything. And because it's such an easy tool, like you can just go in, select the key that you want to be in, and then everything you press is in key is going to be in the key.
Which is always so handy.
Yeah, which is because I'm not like creatively trained or anything. I just kind of taught myself everything, and even though I play everything on my own tracks, it just felt like it gave me a bit of a boost and free reign to just be like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go wild and see what comes out.
Piss about. That's amazing. And what came from was that album, did an album come out of that, or did like a big body of work?
So I did put a big body of work out called Wonderland, it was like a mixtape album.
That was in 2021, right?
That was 2021. That was last year. And that, I think I ended up only using one track from that.
Oh, really?
From that like main bit, because I kind of felt like I was just on a roll, and we had a whole extra year to just like play with. So I was just like, well, let's just, that once I'd got my got my vibe back in the studio, I was like, well, fuck it, I'll just keep going and just seeing what comes. And then you kind of just keep going, and then if something else comes out that's better, you just like, you switch it out. But the track that I did use on there is a track called For Now, which is the track that I closed the mixtape with. Which is just like super emotive, and it was even when I was just writing it, I could just feel that there was like so much emotion in it. And it was kind of just like I think
it's a great record.
It was even like I didn't know where it came from, but just from getting into that creative flow, I think that sometimes when the best stuff just happens.
Yeah, man, totally. Do you like old rave records?
Yeah, I feel like I kind of grew up on those. So that's and I think in lockdown as well, I was like so drawn to old rave. I don't know if it's because it's that going back to that freedom, and we were just locked away, and I just wanted the most euphoric, hardest, fastest like music that I could possibly listen to, because that was kind of what was getting me through this situation that we were in, by being in these four walls. And then randomly the flat that I used to live in during lockdown, I found out while we were in lockdown that the building used to be home to this legendary rave in East London called Wonderland Arena, and it was like Carl Cox used to play there, Frankie Knuckles, The Prodigy, and I was like, how am I just finding this out now? And it was as I was writing loads of like this like high energy rave, and I was like, this must be a sign from the universe that I'm doing something right, that I've just everywhere you can be locked down, the fucking building that I'm in used to be this like mad rave. So I ended up calling the mixtape Wonderland in its honor. So especially around then I was really, really drawn to it. And I think because and even now in sets I kind of been playing a lot of sort of harder, even some hard house and some trance that I've been like slotting in towards the end of sets, that just feels like it's it fits in. It's not like I'm doing a whole set of it, but it will sometimes it just gives you that energy that you need.
Just works.
And it's been nice to kind of be able to play out these records that I was listening to back in the day when I wasn't able to, when I was just mixing in my bedroom before I could go out.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I used to do that with drum and bass quite a lot, because growing up in the Southwest, I don't know about what it was like in Torquay, but Bristol was like drum and bass, still is.
The spot.
It's like drum and bass, like, I don't know, Mecca. And I used to play quite a bit of drum and bass. Or like I'd make an edit and it would go into drum and bass and then go back into house music.
Oh, nice. I like that idea.
Yeah, it's fun, I guess. It's just like people aren't expecting it.
Yeah, I guess quite fast. So you got like,
yeah,
there was, because I wrote one of the tracks on the mixtape album is basically like a jungle track. It's like 160. So, but I can't really play it in that many sets, so I can play it at the end, and you know, the next DJ just got to deal with
fuck
it.
the next DJ over. Yeah, there's something special about it, or goes back to what we were saying about moments in a club, and those are the moments that people remember. I find is when you do something different that kind of just changes the whole vibe of the room up. Is
totally
there?
I always love surprising.
Yeah.
In sets.
Yeah, because it's very easy just to kind of play the same sort of stuff, and kind of you're playing on the same like lineup where everyone's kind of playing similar music, whether it's a house or techno or whatever lineup. But it's very like, I was listening to a Ketema mix the other day, and I never really listened to mixes. I'm not one to listen to mixes. They just do my head in, if I'm honest. And I was listening to a Ketema mix, and I was like, this dude's playing some really interesting music that I wouldn't expect. And I'd love to hear this this would go down in a club really well.
Ketem is amazing. He's a friend of mine, and probably one of the producers I play the most in my sets.
Yeah, his production's wicked. He's solid.
Yeah, I've played with him a few times. He's great DJ.
Yeah.
And artist in general.
I want to talk about Family Planning, your label.
Yeah.
One of the best label names out there, if I'm honest. There's like hidden messages all over it, if I'm honest. And I love it. What was the whole idea behind the name? I've got to ask. It's the most generic question as well, but I've got to ask.
Yeah. So the idea, originally I was thinking it was going to be a club night. So I'd kind of stopped doing What Club, was focusing on making music, and then I was kind of missing doing parties.
Yeah.
So I think I'd always just had a bank of like club names and club ideas.
Yeah.
Just, you know, always bubbling under, and then Family Planning was the one that really stuck. And part of it was basically like, this is especially true for queer kids in the LGBTQ plus community, but people like find their family on the dance floor. It's, you know, sometimes they've been abandoned by their parents, you know, it happens a lot, and then you're finding literally your new family on the dance floor. And obviously it happens in, you know, I've met some of my best friends in the world. Like the first time I ever went to the monastery in Torquay, I met a girl on the dance floor. She's been one of my best mates, you know, for like 20 years. So that's, you know, the ethos behind it is that, like, you know, you find your family on the dance floor, and then obviously it's got just Family Planning as the name, adds an extra meaning, and it's so that was the original like concept behind it, and you know, and the ethos that I wanted it to be about for the next night, about, you know, you find your family on the floor. And again, so that also translates into music, and then we turned it into a label.
Yeah, it's an amazing name, and I really like the kind of concept behind it. Are you releasing other artists' music on it, or are you just doing yourself at the moment?
I think I am actually going to I'm going to start doing that this year, because I feel like there's this whole crew of us all coming through. You know, we're all mates. So there will be some bits coming out on it. I'm actually going to release. I've got a release coming out this Friday. I'm not sure when on Friday the 11th.
Okay, it will be out by the time this goes live.
Cool. So the track's out now, and it's called Damarung, and it's kind of a super emotive techno tune. But that's going to be the first release on Family Planning for about a year and a half, or maybe 2 years. And I just wanted to kind of have a place where I can release stuff, and where, you know, my crew can also release bits, and again keeping in that Family Planning ethos of, you know, cultivating this new family, which is what I'm always about.
Yeah, it's super important in this industry to have that. I find there's a lot of labels that just release music and there's not really a culture behind the label. And I think there's the labels that really succeed on there's very successful labels out there that don't have that family kind of thing. But for me, there's like a longevity of a label, of a crew that just like is about 10 people and they're all just like a crew and a family. There's something super important about that. And you get that vibe when you're at the party. You get that vibe when you listen to the music. It's just, for me, that's really important.
Definitely. That's also been the nice thing about, I've been getting like, a lot of the gigs recently that I've been doing is there's always someone that I'm really good mates with on the lineup, because it feels like there's like a whole new gen coming through, and it's like, we actually want the best for each other. We're not trying to like just clamber on top of each other and like, so I'm always, just super happy when there's, my mates on the lineup. I guess it's slightly different if you're just going and you're headlining somewhere, but when it's, generally all the kind of bigger lineups, there's always someone on there, which is just adds so much more enjoyment to the whole thing for me.
Yeah, it's so much nicer. I've just started my tour over here in the States, and I've booked people on like as to kind of come and headline with me. And it's just been so nice to be able to travel with people that are your like homies, and like you can talk about music, you can bitch and moan about issues that you're dealing with, and it's just so much nicer than like just doing it by yourself.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's just it's almost like you're going on holiday rather than literally like, you're going to work.
And then just hope people turn up and have a party. But if they don't, you can still have a good time.
Yeah, that's it.
No, I love that. So what label did you put the Wonderland stuff out on?
So that was out through Skint BMG.
Oh, cool.
So I'm still working with Skint and BMG. I love those guys.
Yeah.
They've been great. So I'm going to do a single with them. We've got a couple of singles coming up with them. Stuff that's kind of a bit sort of bigger or maybe has a bit more legs, and then stuff on Family Planning will be, my sort of more
club stuff,
sort of more credible underground club stuff. Because I'm just making so much stuff at the moment. I think that's why I like about doing a big body of work, is that it started at just kind of, it can go from disco to hardcore. Whereas I think this year I'm going to maybe try and more.
Have you actually been writing hardcore?
It's all like, I was writing a lot of that in lockdown.
Oh wow.
I haven't, but I don't know if it'll see the light. I've played a few of it towards the end of sets, but now I think I want to try and hone it in a little bit so that it's for now, and then probably in a month's time I'll be like, nah, I want to make disco, or I want to make banging techno again, or I just want to be, I need to be excited, and I think it's good to have surprises. And
totally.
I think now it's I think there's been so many, people always want to try and put you in a box, and I've been quite careful to just not do loads of stuff in the same way, because my sort of goal and what I have been able to is building up to a live show. So I was lucky to go on tour with 808 State and support them as like a little taster, but that's kind of always been in the back of my head, so it's keeping things sort of fluid until.
Well, I think that's the thing, is by kind of setting yourself as a live artist, you allow yourself to play so much different music, right? It doesn't just have to be 4/4. It doesn't have to be anything. It can be whatever you want, because when you're live, people are expecting a live show. They're not expecting you to DJ.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was one of the great things about one of the positives that came out of lockdown, is that there weren't any clubs, so it kind of just took out this pressure of having to make something that's just gonna keep people jumping up and down for 5 minutes. Like, it's you can open it up and explore, and I've like I was writing loads of really sort of emotional, slower stuff, just that I didn't put out or put on the album, but just as an experiment, and just to feel free to kind of create what you want, was just quite liberating. Scary now though, because you're just like, what the fuck am I going to make today?
And I think there's certain, like for me, I don't know about you, but I find our music nowadays is like our business card to get gigs, and it's pretty hard to like be, or like when you're putting out music, I don't know about you, but do you like stress about if it's going to do well on streaming, if it's going to do how it's going to do on radio? I don't know about you, but for me, it's like that's a big thing for me, where we kind of gauge the success of a record. And I think, although I don't kind of make music to be successful on the radio or streaming, there's a part of it in my head, probably subconsciously, that's going, hang on a minute, Will, this is gonna never get played on radio, and this is never gonna get playlisted on Spotify. Do you ever get that with when you're writing?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think it depends on what I'm writing as well at the time. Like, I think if I'm writing something that I'm thinking like, okay, this could potentially do well on radio. But also what I found out is that sometimes you actually just never know, because string theory, I mean, no one even wanted to, we sent it to some radio pluggers. They didn't want to even do it, because it was like, it just sounded so different. You know, it was just a little club record in theory that, you know, you could just, so also now
what radio pluggers was that? Come on, call them out.
I don't want to just
it wasn't Jacko.
But to be fair, it didn't sound like a radio track, a sort of standard track that would do well on the radio. But it just turned out that, you know, just having something that was I guess so just strong and simple and different to what was out is what sort of what pushed it through. So part of it is, now I try not to worry about it too much, but of course you want what you're doing to be successful. But if you start thinking about that, for me, when I'm in the process, then it can just be a real sort of creativity kill. But I do think about it, and where I like, now there's all these pressures of like, if I put a track out, where is it going to place me? Am I playing with the right artists? You know, am I playing at the right things that I want to play at? So there's all these, like, it's such a fine line of, you know, where to, of all these, it's like this massive game of chess. I think it's less so much now. I feel there's a lot of new people coming through that are kind of bucking that trend and just releasing different types of music that aren't expected. And I think if we continue to do that, then it should just free up things for other artists.
There's a huge scene in the UK right now that there's a lot of people just like, they're putting out loads of kind of different house music or different electronic music. There's just like not necessarily club music, but not necessarily not club music, if that makes sense. I guess there's that kind of I heard Jaguar talking about it, like, do you mean like more like the chill house stuff where it's kind of dancey and breaksy, but you could have it on a Sunday at home, or you could kind of have it at the start of a night out on a like what Tisha's doing, like what Fred Again's doing, and kind of, and also similar to what you're doing on some of the records you're releasing. It's like Malgrab, that kind of DJ Pool Boy. It's kind of this whole, like, I guess it's like the lo-fi scene, the lo-fi crew. Which is really interesting, because I love listening to that music. Would I necessarily play it if I'm headlining? No, because it's just not going to work. But if I'm opening in a club, then it's kind of perfect for it. It's definitely it's really nice to see something. There hasn't been anything like this for a while that I'm like, wow, this is like genuinely really good music. It's not just like that's it. It's not just like generic tech house that's just the kids are enjoying it because it's a good party record. It's like that. It's genuinely really well done music.
Yeah, totally. It's interesting, and you know, there's live instruments on it. There's you know, it's like there's textures. I mean, there was for a while. I mean, I just love like I put distortion on like every single thing and then kind of dial it back. So it's just so that there's like a texture, or I like stuff that kind of makes it feel like it's a bit more alive.
Yeah, I like that. How's the whole like live set process going? Because I know that's a hard process. Especially if you're not like classically trained. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. Like I'm not classically trained. And the thought of doing a live set, I've always wanted to do one, but I'm like, I can't play live. I can't play the piano. I can't do anything like that. So like, how's the whole process?
It was daunting. It was scary as fuck because I feel like I know I can just go and smash a set. Like I know if I'm DJing, I know I can do a good job.
Yeah.
But it was just this whole extra skill set and learning to play stuff, even though I'd already kind of played it when I made it, but just having to play it kind of on demand and learning how to play each bit. And it was just me up there. So then I had for the show, actually, I ended up like condensing everything down. But the first live show that I did at Islington Assembly, I had you can see this Cynthia, the Jupiter X, and I got that because has like 5 different Roland synths in one. So I was like, I can kind of just automatically click through, and then it's got the settings for the next track, and then it will have the bass, and I'll play the bass, and then the next thing I'll play the chords. And I was kind of alternating between playing some of it on the push and then playing some of it on the keyboard. I mean, when I was like freaking out, I'd be like, I'm just going to play it on the push, just because I think I'd just been playing so much stuff on the push that I felt like, that is an instrument in itself, which I felt I'd like got to grips with. But then there was a drum machine, which I would kind of just freestyle over the top and create build-ups or just add different percussion. Each time would be different.
Yeah.
And then I'd have 2 Zone K2 controllers, which kind of act as a mixer with 4 stems. Yeah. So I'd be like cutting out like drums, bass, then like percussion, and then kind of everything else. And then I would be doing effects on those parts. And then I'd also have some clips. So I would kind of be changing the arrangement of things at the same time. But originally I was trying to just go like all guns blazing. And then I was like, okay, I just need to just dial this back, because also as well, when people come and see me DJ, I'm quite energetic and I'm jumping about. And I think, if they then came to see me and I'm just like, my head's down I'm just, like that's not the kind of performer that I am. I'm kind of engaged with everyone and up and high energy. So I kind of dialed it back and trying to get a balance where I can still do both of those things. But it is really daunting and it's fucking scary.
Yeah, I bet.
And it was, so I think for me, I think it will definitely keep evolving. I like the idea of having more hardware and then sort of being able to manipulate sounds rather than just playing every single note, because also as well, people want to hear the track in the way that it's, they want it to still sound
in its original form.
So it's I it's just something that I'm still evolving, but
that's cool.
It was a challenge to kind of pull everything. I basically had to put everything inside a hand luggage case, because on the tour I was doing live show and then I was DJing separately, so sometimes I'd have to fly to a gig. I think I had a gig. I played at a festival in Aberdeen, which is like really far up in Scotland. And it was going to be like a 12-hour train to get back to London, and I was just like, I can't like I guess in the States people take 12-hour train journeys, but it doesn't really happen in the UK. So I was just like, there's no ways I can do that. And then there was supposed to be a gig in Ireland, and anyway, I condensed it all down, and I was kind of glad that I did, because it just made me really streamlined with it, and I know that I could just kind of rock in with that. But I also want to start exploring with my voice as well. There's a couple of tracks where I've got them on, so I think that will be something that I'll develop, and then that can be like an extra. Well, I mean, I've sang all my tracks and it sounds good. So but I mean, it's something new that I'm exploring.
That's cool.
I wouldn't necessarily say that I was a singer, but it is. I would be writing music and then I would just hear vocals that I would then just put down. And there's a couple of them that I'm enjoying. So
that's dope. I love that. What's it like? Because I've have like a side project that kind of isn't really doing anything at the moment, and it's like a duo between me and a mate, and we were gonna do a live show, and then our laptop, it was like we were playing at a festival in California, and the tent was so hot that the laptop just like died.
just not having it.
Just like, yeah, we thank God we did sound check. But we turned it on and like it wasn't even the hottest of part of the day, and we did sound check and the laptop was just like, no, absolutely not. But the process for like kind of going through that live setup for us, like we're actually planning what the set list is, which is such a strange concept from a DJ. Because for me as a DJ, I don't plan a set list. I know roughly what I'm going to play, but we don't plan it. How did you find that? Because you're like, oh, at this time, this record's going to come on and this record's going to come on. Like, how did you find that?
Yeah, I mean, it was, I actually ended up changing it after, I think I after a couple of sets, because I ended up changing it. But I mean, it is, I was just starting with stuff that was a bit sort of softer and not as intense, but also not super chill. Like you want it to you want to start kind of like at a mid-level still, where it's still got some energy. And then I would end with it, the Euphoria track, which was just like 160 BPM. So that for me, it was like, that was the track that I knew I had to end with, because it was just such peak energy, and in a live setting, like that's kind of where you want to leave them on a high. So I knew that was going to be the case, and then it was kind of just slotting things around and seeing what felt right, until it got into a place where I was like, okay, this feels like a good flow. And also as well, I was having to make sure that things were kind of in key as they were coming through, so that certain parts I would be sampling out. There's like a little vocal part of one of my tracks, and I took that out, sampled it, and then was like pitching it up so that it would be playing on top of the old track at a higher pitch. Playing on top of the new track at a higher pitch. So that everything just felt like it was all kind of coming together, but then you're getting like a new sound that you wouldn't have heard on either of the tracks or in a DJ set.
That's cool.
So it was literally just trial and error, and I guess from just knowing from playing a lot, just kind of thinking what you think is going to work. But it is a strange concept, because obviously we're just completely free and fluid when we DJ. If something's not working, we can just like see you later, and or if we want to change a track or up the tempo or whatever it is, you've got free reign. But when it's a live set, you're kind of a bit more set. The good thing with Ableton Push though is that I could kind of skip things forward.
Okay.
Say if something was kind of going on a bit longer than the crowd were ready for, I could start bringing in things earlier. Cool. And again, also keep things looped. And create build-ups with the drum machine. Start adding snare rolls and creating a bit more drama at points if I felt like it needed it.
Is there, I haven't seen the live set, but is there like a plan to do anything visually? Because you're quite a visual person, like you said. Is there like anything that you kind of got in your head where you're like, this is the goal for the live set?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to have a full like audio visual 360 immersive show. Like that would be incredible. Like it would be amazing to do it at something like the Roundhouse in Camden, where it's all just but for when I did I was when I was touring with 808 State, I was the support, so I wasn't really able to do any kind of visual side of stuff. We did have visuals on when I did my first live show at Islington Assembly, and it was kind of a mishmash of, I've got this kind of little like dancing man icon which
I've
twists
seen that
and turns, so we kind of had him jumping about. But I think the plan for the next live show is I'm going to put another body of work together and have an album which is like a proper artist album. And I think when I tour that as a proper live show, then everything will be considered, and there will be a full visual show to go with it as well.
Is your plan to be a full-on album artist?
I love the idea of doing albums. Like for me, I think I've grown up with dance albums. I love the artistry of putting a piece of music together that's not just a track here, a track there. Ever since I think I heard Daft Punk's Homework album, I was like, I'm going to do something like this once I'm older. I think that's quite young when it came out, but that is what excites me. I like to be able to put in creativity into creating these, a body of work which has impact. And I know it's kind of not really what's done as much anymore. Everyone just wants the single, and they want to have they want to have like a 2-minute edit of the single, and they want it now. But for me, creating something that is a moment and a piece, that's what excites me.
I totally agree. I think we're actually going in. I hope that we're going into the era where people start making albums again. And growing up, we had so many iconic dance albums in the UK, like so many.
Yeah.
And it kind of shaped a whole scene. And it wasn't really like, I was listening to the Chem's first album the other day, and although they're in the like electronic house techno field, it was more rock, which was weird because
they were quite indie back then.
Like it was all samples and shit like that, but like even Fatboy Slim, like his first album, like that, it was an all sample based album, but there was something super indie and rock about them, which I'm really excited with, like yourself doing an album. I feel like there's gonna kind of bring back that era, maybe not that necessarily sound, but like that vibe. I think it adds so much more value as an artist that when you become an album artist, there's kind of a bigger story of who you are as an artist and as a person, I think.
Totally. And even just like for a personal level, just making music, I think because I like making different genres, it kind of gives me the freedom to, to maybe make something that's a bit more over one way than I would do if it was just a single. That, having like a body of work, you can kind of create a story that makes sense and that gives you a bit more leeway to express yourself a bit more. Totally. But for me, I've just always dreamed and wanted to be an album artist. So that's something that I will continue to do.
Do it, man. Do it. Mate, we've just done an hour. It's absolutely flown by. What have you got coming up in the next couple of months, just to so we can promote some shit, and then we can
so I've got my single Damarung, which is out on Family Planning, which I've got a US tour, which is supposed to be 11 dates over 5 weeks, but there's a couple of visa issues, so I don't know when, or there's like a delay in the visa arriving, so I don't know which ones are going to be rescheduled. But I'm doing Crosstalk Festival.
Sick.
With Ben UFO, Fortet, and Joy Orbison, which I can't wait to do.
Mate, that festival is so much fun as well.
Is it? It looks. It looks great.
Yeah.
And is it right on the water?
Pretty much. Yeah. It's like you can see the water from there. It's San Diego. Have you been to San Diego before?
No, I've never been to San Diego. So
it's beautiful. It's one of my favorite places in America. It's a really good party, and the guys that run it are just so nice, and it's like a super well created or curated party. It's amazing.
Amazing. I'm super excited about that. And then I think I'm doing Particle Flash with Tiga.
Cool.
A couple of days before that. I think that's at early March
in DC.
And then in DC, then I think I've got a club called Rhonda in LA.
Sick.
So to doing Las Vegas with those guys as well. Denver, doing Meow Wolf. What else is there? San Francisco, Monarch in San Francisco. Somewhere in Boston.
Yeah, there's a couple there. I always forget.
Just throwing random city names out. But it's quite an extensive tour, and I think Mexico City as well.
Amazing.
And LA as well.
Cool.
So there's a few. I'm just so excited to come over. It's like the first time I've played in America, so it's.
Man, you're gonna have the best time.
I'm buzzing. Yeah.
Let me know. Text me the dates as well, because if I'm about, I'll come to one. I'll fly out.
That'd be amazing.
I'd love to check it out.
So you're in Detroit?
Yeah, I'm in Detroit. Just tour about as and when. I tour more in the States than I do anywhere else at this moment in time.
So how long have you been living there?
In the States, on and off for like 6 years. So yeah, I've been in Detroit 4.5 years now.
Nice. What drew you to that? Obviously the history.
No, Detroit's interesting because you have this like amazing rich history of the city. Like there's so much history. Obviously like techno, but you've got like Motown, you've got the car industry. It's like so much history, but it's also it got fucked over massively. And is like one of the poorest cities in America. Or it's the only city in America that went bankrupt. But it's super affordable to live here. And you can kind of get more for your money than anywhere else in that kind of has a bit of a scene. And I really before I came to Detroit, I was in New York and I love New York. But I just didn't want to live in an apartment and pay like $4,000 a month.
Yeah.
And never there. You know how it is. Like when we're touring every weekend, we're never there. So it's like, what's the point of just like wasting this much money? And then a friend invited me to come and rent one of their apartments in Detroit. And I was like, this isn't my forever city. But it's great and it's got a cool little scene and there's some really interesting things about the city that I love. So just try it out, and I've just ended up here for quite a while. But yeah,
nice.
It's definitely there's a festival called Movement, which I'm not too sure if you've heard about.
Oh yeah, I've heard of Movement. Yeah.
But it's like it's the most iconic techno festival in America. And the guys that run it, a company called Paxahau, they do quite a lot of cool shit in the city. And that festival is like the one in America, really. It's like the kind of whoever plays at Movement is like at the peak in America scene, whether that's an international DJs or American based. So it's definitely an interesting place for that as well. It's the best time to come to Detroit as well when that city's going on. But
yeah, when is it? I'll put it on my vision board.
Yeah, do it, man. It's Memorial Weekend, which is May time. Let me just pull it up because they've just announced part of the lineup. Movement. It is May the 28th to the 30th. Yeah, it's fun, and it's right in the heart of the city, so it's like
nice.
Yeah, it's dope. Dude, how can people follow you and everything as well before we go?
Yeah, so Absolute is here on all the socials, basically. Instagram's probably the main one.
Yeah. Mate, thank you so much for coming on. It's been really nice to talk to you.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you so much.
Keep in touch, mate, and keep safe, and I'll see you soon.
Yeah, you too. See you soon.
Cheers. See you in a bit.
Bye.
Love that conversation. Thanks for listening. Please don't forget to subscribe, share it, send it to your mates, tell your friends about it. Keep safe. Have a great week. See you soon.